Friday, February 2nd, 2007, and this is episode 213 of Walt Disney World Today. This episode of Walt Disney World Today is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. I'm Matt Hochberg from MGMstudios.org, and this, as you may recognize, is Len Testa, co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
It took me like 30 seconds to figure out what you were doing. That was awesome. You are so my hero.
Thank you. Also on the show is Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Cigars, cigarettes, Sensens.
I have no clue.
I'll tell you at the end of the show.
All right.
All right. Mike Newell is also here, Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
Len, you gotta let me in. What's going on here? I don't know what's going on.
If I understand correctly, you were doing the beginning of the movie from Tower of Terror.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. Newell, you got to listen to your own. You got to listen to Studio Central Radio. Is what you got to listen to.
He had the pacing, he had the phrasing down too. It wasn't just the words.
Yeah. See.
Okay.
He's not happy.
Yeah.
And also on the show is Fred Block of MagicMeats.com. Welcome, Fred.
Matta hoo-ha?
What is with our listeners ripping off Scopa when they come on the show?
I thought I was the one on the prescription medication. Hold on.
That's
Hello,
his new
hello,
name.
hello.
Matahuha.
Well, on today's show, we're talking about Magic Meets, formerly known as Diz Meets, and it's actually going to be held this year, July 14th, 2007, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And of course, Fred Block is the man behind it. Now, Fred, before we get started here, in the spirit of Groundhog Day, I want to give you credit where credit is due, and you actually are quite the prognosticator. I have a clip from last year's show when you came on, and you made a prediction about 2007. So here's the clip.
However, the way things are kind of looking, with the number of people that we might be anticipating, the Crown Plaza in Allentown just might not be big enough for us for next year.
That's great.
Wow, you guys really set that one up really good. Kudos. I feel, I think we should clap.
So
yeah,
we're in
that one's
Harrisburg.
definitely coming. Yeah, we're in Harrisburg after 24 different hotels.
Wow.
Which hotel is it, Fred?
It is the Radisson in Camp Hill. It's a convention center and hotel.
Oh, sweet.
It looks great on the
it is. It's
website.
a really nice hotel and one of the few places that was willing to really work with us to give us everything we need as far as space and quality and a lot of the things that I was looking for in the new venue that we were moving to.
Great. Now, you also have a announcement for our listeners, don't you?
Yeah, I thought it's been something I've been holding back for a while, but we finalized it this week, and
we're not non-judgmental here, Fred. So go ahead.
Well, let me give you a drum roll, Fred.
Is it like Disney's big announcement last week? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can't keep this up forever. Go, Fred.
Well, it's definitely not going to be a stay in Cinderella's castle, that's for sure. We have a new treat this year.
A new treat? What?
Yes. Mike Scope is treating. He's bringing the machine from Florida.
We're holding it at Narcoossee's?
Yeah, really. That's what I thought he said.
You guys are making it really easy here, I'll tell you.
Anyway, Fred, you have an announcement.
And now I have to keep my composure to be able to do the announcement. I've been working on it for a little while, and we were able to get a new treat for our guests this year. And basically, I partnered up with Segway of Central Pennsylvania to be a sponsor of the event and to also provide demonstrations and on-hand time with Segways that everybody is have seen so often at Epcot. Those guys get that great job of going up and down the aisles in the parking lot. Well, now you've seen them. This is going to be your chance to be up close and personal with a Segway. So we're really excited about that.
Segways for everybody?
Segways for everybody, yeah. We're all going to be running around on two wheels.
Newell will have all his junk on one Segway behind him towing.
The little towing package train.
Yep. So that's one of the biggest things that I was working on because I put the Segway thing as definitely a connection to Disney, and also because Mr. Fred here is also an owner of a Segway. I have my own. So.
Do you really?
Yes, I do.
You have your own Segway.
Yeah, I do. I have an I-180.
One's jealous.
How about that?
I actually got it for myself for Christmas this past season. It was here, believe it or not. If you read it, we also, not everybody knew this, but my family vacationed after Mouse Fest at Disney. We stayed a little longer, and it was actually here at my house when I got home from my trip. So
Nice.
that was pretty cool. To be waiting for me, yeah.
Now, last year, Fred, we brought you on to talk about how great the event is, and I think like the next day, registration sold out. So a number of our listeners really couldn't come even if they wanted to. So this year, we think we've given you enough time to come on here and so our listeners can register and not have to worry about it selling out like in a week.
I sure hope so. I mean, we haven't started collecting payments, which is going to be the key factor here, and was also the key factor last year. The registration system itself is open. And so that gives you the ability to say, yes, I'm interested in going, but when it comes time to start collecting the payments and paying for those registrations, then that's when, we usually keep track very closely to see how many people are already booked, and, I'm going to be carefully watching that.
Well, we've gotten about 7 minutes into the show, and we haven't explained what Magic Meets is, and I'm sure there's many listeners who are looking and say, I have no idea what these guys are talking about. Never mind the Narcoossee's reference. Fred, why don't you tell our listeners what is Magic Meets?
Magic Meets was an idea I had to try to get everyone who loves all things Disney together for a day, and you get to listen to speakers, you have a nice lunch, and you get to meet a lot of the friends that you communicate with back and forth online probably every day in numerous communities. And this was the way that you could put a face to the name. So, and you don't have to worry because everybody loves Disney, so everybody has something in common. That's what I would lump it up as, quickly, since we're 7 minutes into the show.
Well, why don't you?
I'm exhausted already.
Why don't you explain what the format is? Because unlike, say, Mouse Fest, where you there's different meets planned at different parts. I mean, this is a day-long event, and give our listeners kind of a readout on what happens during the day, kind of the schedule of things.
Okay. What we do is the registrations. That's the first part of it. Everybody goes through a check-in process. Once you're all checked in, you go inside to the main ballroom. You find a table that you want to sit at. And shortly, the ballroom opens at 11, and then probably by around 12 o'clock, we have a speaker that speaks to the main ballroom and everyone who's in attendance. Shortly after the first speaker, we go to breakout sessions, and there's 3 sessions at the same time of all different topics and different speakers. So you do that. Right after the first breakout sessions, we have a great buffet lunch with lots of selection, and throughout the day, along with the breakout sessions, we give out prizes. We do, there's lots of tables and sponsors that'll be there so that you can go and talk with the numerous different people that'll have goodies to give away. Deb Wills will be in attendance. The guys from WDW Today will be in attendance. Put you on the spot. And Lou Mangello, a lot of the people that have been
Oh wait, you said Lou's gonna be there?
Oh, of course, can't forget Lou.
Oh, you guys, that's really.
Lou, gotta have Lou. Lou, this. Oh, I love Lou. Oh, Lou, you're so smart. Oh, Lou. So good, Lou. You so love your book. Oh, Lou. Come to the meet.
I got to tell you guys, you're going to make fun of me, but I'm going to set myself up for this. We, our families together, Lou's and my family, we just
of course,
why not?
Sure.
In the Poconos.
Wait, let me guess. Lou cooked dinner.
No.
He had a little
Even
apron on
better,
and kissed
dessert.
the chef.
Exactly, and he was so cute in it. Go ahead. I like Lou. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're getting such an email from Lou after this show.
I know. I haven't heard from him since Mouse Fest. It's time. What the heck? Oh, Lou! He writes such good emails. Go ahead.
Oh, man.
We seem to have lost Fred.
Yeah, you lost me. You totally lost me.
Lou's going to be there. Also, you know, a little bit less cool than Lou. Mike Scopa. Scopa, you were a presenter last year.
Yes, I was.
You made. Not only were you a presenter, you know, like you made the keynote speech, if you will.
Ooh.
I did? Oh, yeah. I guess I did. Because I had keys in my pocket.
Mike actually started the day off with quite a bit of Disney magic. I got to say that, and everybody was in attendance.
Disney magic. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Boy, oh boy!
Wow.
Richard Tester, I'm here.
I feel like I'm getting attacked here today. I'll tell you.
Scope is listening. I
Yeah,
forgot.
Scope is listening.
I thought I
Lou's
was
not
on
here. We can make fun of Lou because he's not here.
Unmute.
But
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to figure out what you guys say about me when I'm not on the podcast.
yeah, listen to all the
Yeah,
episodes.
it was a very. I have to admit that when you're standing in front of 350 people and you know that they're all Disney nuts, you know that the audience is with you right from the start. So that was half the battle, and then you just go through and got some audience interaction going on, and during the course of the little talk, 45 minutes or whatever it was, I saw people crying, I saw people laughing, so I was happy.
He was happy to see everybody so sad.
And of course, if you want to listen to the speech that Mike Scopa made, we'll put a link in the show notes. But actually, it's on Walt Disney World Today's website. We have Newell recorded it, so we have. You also have
No.
407 years ago.
Oh no.
not that speech.
I just got that.
Thank you. Thank you.
that one was just
Because
rambling.
he's old, get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Woo!
Countryman, lend me your ears.
It sounded better in the original Greek.
I like Moses. I have 15 tablets, 10
I bring you these 15, these 10 commandments.
Oh, Fred, see what you got yourself into.
Oh man,
I
that's
forgot.
great.
I actually forgot why we're here today.
What are we doing?
This is too much fun.
Now, do you have any of the speakers figured out yet, Fred, or is that coming down the line?
It looks like we're going to be holding off. We're going to be closing off the event at around 500 people this year. And right now, the registration system has a little over 440 people
Already?
in it. Yeah, mind you, we haven't started collecting payments, but I'm anticipating. Well, let me give you another little bit of information. I booked a little over 100 rooms for the hotel in my block, and people have been reserving rooms for almost a month now, and I have 136 room nights reserved.
Wow.
So I'm already 36 rooms over my anticipated block, and I'm working with the hotel to try to increase the size of the block. I mean, they have 270 rooms, I believe, there. So, and 30,000 square feet of ballroom space, which will be all ours.
Nice.
Wow. So the hotel must be happy.
I would think so. I mean, I would hope so. So, the new venue has me a little nervous because you gotta figure out how to put all the tables, where all the sponsors are going to go, where the new Segway demonstration area is going to be, where the auction for charity is going to be set up. So I'm probably going to be making another trip out just to try to do all of that logistics in the next few weeks or so.
Fred, you're going to have a separate room for the kids?
Yep, we're going to do the 3 breakout rooms, which should be able to hold about 100 people apiece, and we're going to have a 4th breakout room just for the kids.
Good. That worked out well last year.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great for if you bring kids. Fred, maybe you can talk a little bit about the little area for the kids, because it's not just like a little corner. I mean, it's like last year. I don't know what they're doing this year, but last year you had like their own room with their own activities, and really, I mean, if you were under 7 or 8, I mean, you were occupied the entire time.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things that we took from feedback in the surveys that we do after the event, was that parents wanted more for their children to be able to do. So that's what we did, and this year I have quite a few things that I'm working on, which are going to be enhancements to what was done last year, but I don't have anything finalized yet. So I'm hesitant to say what we do have, but it is really, really cool. And again, I'm doing what I can to try to take the event to the next level. Let's just say that.
Great. Well, if you
But
have...
there should be plenty for the kids to do. I will answer it that way.
Cool. Well, if you have more questions for Fred, or you want to find more information, times, days, where the hotel is exactly, things of that nature, be sure to go to magicmeets.com. There'll be a link in the show notes to it. And Fred, we appreciate you coming on the show to talk to us again and putting up with this.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Boy, I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. I could do this more often, you know.
Look for the panel discussion on the Walt Disney World Today panel discussion.
So at the beginning of the podcast, I gave this opening: cigars, cigarettes, Sensens, and none of our geeks knew what it was. So I'm going to tell you what it was, because you can't hear it anymore. Back in the early 90s, there was a show, before we even had Sunset Boulevard and MGM Studios, there was Theater of the Stars that was right there at the opening. And they had many shows. And one of the shows they had was called Double Cross, Diamond Double Cross.
Dick
and
Tracy's
it was
Diamond Double Cross.
Yes, it was based on Dick Tracy. A lot of people may remember it as Calling Dick Tracy, but there were several scenes in there with a girl in a nightclub walking around, and she kept on saying cigars, cigarettes, Sensens. And for those of you who are not a million years old like me, Sensens were these little tablets that you could put in your mouth and supposedly gave you fresh breath after having 20 million cigarettes or whatever. But that's where that podcast opening came from. So now you know the rest of the story.
Well, a warm welcome back to those of you who made it, and a friendly word of warning, something you won't find in any unofficial guide to Walt Disney World guidebook. So if you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and Fred Block, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.